The G7 is meeting. I hope I'm not being too cynical, but when nations gather together to plan their relationship, determine their future and divide up the proverbial cake, I can't find my mind but turning to the words of the psalmist, Psalm 2 verse 1. Why do the nations conspire and the peoples plot in vain? The psalmist knows and delights that God is sovereign. God is in charge of events, and God looks at our actions and, as the psalmist goes on to say, the one enthroned in heaven laughs, the Lord scoffs at them. We think that we're powerful, and even more so when we come together, but history assures us that nations come and go, that empires rise and fall, and that what seems so sure this century is past or forgotten in the next. The G7 summit, the 11th to the 13th of June, is in Cornwall. It's a gathering of 7 nations: Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the UK and the USA. A brief history for you. The G7 was founded in 1975 and gathered what were then the biggest economies so that together they could work for the good of their nations and the world. But that was 1975. And the G7 today is less about the biggest economies, China is not a member, but more about the leading Western liberal democracies with roughly shared values, though it lacks the biggest democracy of all, India. Perhaps the G7 needs a refresh, but that might dilute the current members' influence. Nevertheless, the G7 annual meeting remains a gathering where major decisions may be taken, and this year those decisions might include matters of global tax rates for businesses, COVID vaccines for the developing world, and action on climate change. You know, I've no desire for these leaders to conspire and plot in vain. I need to pray for them. St. Paul writes in his second letter to Timothy, chapter 2, verse 2, "Pray for kings and all who are in authority, so that we can live peaceful and quiet lives marked by godliness and dignity." That's a great prayer. Peace, quietness, godliness and dignity. Will you pray for them too, so that their actions and decisions, informed by God's Spirit of wisdom, will, knowingly or unknowingly, establish more firmly God's kingdom's values over the earth as the waters cover the sea?